Hello there, welcome to Bryan Lomax Movie Talk and my review of Dr. Sleep, the latest film from Mike Flanagan and also the latest iteration of a Stephen King novel. This one being, as well, having to grapple with the fact that it's also a sequel to Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, a film that Stephen King has never been particularly favourable towards. So yeah, it's always going to be interesting seeing how that was balanced, given that this film has got King's blessing. So yeah, it picks up pretty much from where the first film left off. We get a little intro bit to kind of tell us a little bit just what happened to Danny and his mother just after the events at the Overlook Hotel. Then we whisk many years into the future, in which Danny is grown up. He's a bit of a drunk. He's got issues, clearly, and he's kind of just wandering through life, not really making much of himself. But when something happens, he decides to make a change, and that coincides with the arrival of this young girl who also has the shining abilities, and yeah, he needs to help her. He needs to save her family, save people like her from the likes of a new villain in town, played by Rebecca Ferguson. She's called Rose the Hat, and she has a band of merry men and women who essentially suck the life force out of anyone who has shining-like abilities. So yeah, that's your setup. Is it any good? Well, like I say, this it was always going to be a tricky one going into this, because The Shining is one of my favourite horror movies of all time. Stanley Kubrick is one of my favourite directors of all time. Mike Flanagan is no Stanley Kubrick, that's for certain. But without Kubrick having directed this film, I think this is about as good as we ever could have hoped for, which is a really big compliment. You know, I think Flanagan has done an excellent job here. Now, the only other film that I've seen of Flanagan's prior to this was Gerald's Game, which is another Stephen King adaptation. I didn't like the ending of that film. I thought the film itself was awesome. I thought it was one of the best Stephen King adaptations I'd seen up till the ending, which was kind of bungled, which has kind of been a thing with Stephen King adaptations. I often find that his endings are totally bungled. It's like he doesn't know where he's going and he just kind of wraps it up in some weird way. So yeah, wasn't that keen on the ending to Gerald's Game. I was hoping, yeah, coming into this one, if he can get the kind of adaptation he did with Gerald's Game but really nail that ending, then we will be on to something quite sweet. And I am thankful to say that that is the case. So yeah, this is a very good film indeed. Now, when I went to see this, I came out of it and I really enjoyed it, really liked it. It's very well character driven, you know, it's all about character. There's a lot of wide shots, most of the stuff is shot in wides, again, aping Kubrick. There's not a right lot of jump scares. In fact, I can't even remember a single jump scare in this. Even the moments that do go loud, you're kind of, yeah, they're precipitated by a moment which tells you it's coming. So it's not like a traditional jump scare or anything. There's a shot in this, we get some flashbacks, for example, back to the Overlook when Danny was 5, and we see some stuff that wasn't in the Kubrick movie, like when he first he kind of arrives just outside room 237. We see a moment there. Now, I won't say what that moment is or what happens, but in another film, it would have been a jump scare. In this film, it's not. It's a very slow reveal. Something happens, and it happens slowly, and the whole time it does, your skin crawls. And there's a lot of moments like that throughout the film where Flanagan takes his time, he lets scenes breathe, and he says, actually, you know what? Horror is about the creeping dread, not about the jump scare. And I love that, absolutely love it. Now, I didn't appreciate it quite as much coming straight out of the film until I went straight into another film afterwards called Countdown. A film I walked out of after 15 minutes. So there won't be a review for that because I don't believe in reviewing a film that you've only seen 15 minutes of. But I walked out because I kid you not, in about the first 15 minutes of that film, there's about 10 jump scares. And I sat there during that first 15 minutes and it just made me appreciate what I had just watched coming out of Doctor Sleep. It actually made me think about Doctor Sleep even more. So yeah, love Flanagan's direction in this. I don't think he goes quite as deep when it comes to dealing with themes in the way that Kubrick does. Kubrick was very good at layering stuff so that, you know, on repeat viewings you pull more things out. He wouldn't spoon feed you stuff. He changed a lot of the dialogue. It's one of the things that King hates about Kubrick's adaptation, is that he made so many changes. And I think one of those changes is dialogue. His dialogue is better. It's not so on the nose. And I think here, sometimes the dialogue does suffer from that. It suffers from that Kingism in which, yeah, things are kind of painted very clearly for you as to what's going on. It's not a great detriment to the film. Like I say, it's just because you can't help but compare what we have here to what Kubrick would have done. It's a comparison that unfortunately I think is going to bog this movie down. And if it didn't have that tie to Kubrick's movie, I think that a lot of the criticisms that this film is probably going to get would be null and void. So as a King adaptation, it's really good stuff. It's very solid. Like I say, the character development is cracking. So it's all based around these two characters, or focused on these two characters. One played by Kylie Curran. She plays this girl called Abra Stone. She's this young girl who has these similar abilities to Danny, who he kind of gets caught up in having to help her, or having to decide whether or not to help her. She's very good. Curran is a very good actress, very young actress. There are some difficult scenes, I think, for her to do here, which she really nails. One in particular is, again, I don't want to spoil it, but during a particular sequence in which the Shining powers are being used in a particular way, she has to change her entire demeanour. She has to kind of become someone else, essentially, and she does a real bang-up job of that. Really nails it. Great performance from this young actress. Definitely one to watch. Ewan McGregor, really great in this. I do really like Ewan McGregor. I've grown to like him more over the years. I think that as he gets older, I don't know, there's something more that I like about him. I think he delivers a really solid performance, really gets under the skin of this character, and I buy that it is the same person. If I look at Kubrick's original film, I can imagine, this is the guy that Danny Torrance grows up to be. There's a lot of callbacks, a lot of referencing to The Shining, but it's done in a way that is organic. It's done in a way that matters, that makes sense, that is relevant to the story, rather than just calling back for the sake of it, little in-jokes, nods, things like that really annoy me, usually. Terminator 3. I love the way that it utilises, once again, the Overlook Hotel. The Overlook Hotel does play a part in the movie, and this is really a film about Danny Torrance coming to terms with his past, coming to terms with who his father was, and coming to terms with who he will choose to be, who he wants to be, and who he is not. It's kind of a coming of age movie, but very late on in years. It's about a guy who, deciding who he wants to be, grappling with the past, and moving forward, wrestling with his demons. It's done really well. Props to everyone involved. Great cinematography, some really good shocks. I don't mean again, jump scare shocks, that kind of thing, but just shocks within the story. Certain characters that they allow you to fall in love with, to grow close to, who don't quite make it, or this, that and the other, things like that. So the periphery characters become people that you care about. They're not just people who are cannon fodder or anything like that. You care about all these side characters. What I will say as well is that this is one of the first films of a King adaptation that I can recall where the Christian comes out faring pretty well. I often find in a lot of Stephen King movies, I don't know what his books are like, but certainly in his movies, a lot of the Christian characters tend to be religious zealots, tend to be religious nut jobs, quite frankly. You know, you think of the mother in Carrie, you think of the crazy Christian lady in The Mist, you know, characters like that. Yeah, they don't tend to fare so well. They come out looking like nutters. Here, we get a group of Christians in a kind of Alcoholics Anonymous kind of setting. They run this group, and yeah, Danny Torrance kind of falls in with them. He's taken in by them, and at no point are these guys made out to be nut jobs, made out to be, you know, there's some good discussions about faith and things like that where Danny he can't quite see it from their perspective, I don't think. He never flat out says anything like, oh, I don't believe in God, that's all nonsense. But there's a discussion there. There's room for a discussion rather than, you know, rather than putting down, rather than disrespecting, rather than making these guys all out to be idiots or nut jobs or naive or anything like that, which is quite refreshing, I gotta say, to see that in a Stephen King adaptation. Rebecca Ferguson makes for a great villain as Rose the Hat as well. Yeah, interesting lady. Very beautiful, got to be said. Rebecca Ferguson, certainly an eye catcher. I think there are times in the film where there's certain lines of dialogue, again, that kind of King-esque dialogue, where certain things that she has to say they're expository, and it's very hard to kind of deliver expository dialogue and give it depth, you know, and make it not seem like anything but what it is, which is expository dialogue. And there are a couple of times where she trips up on that dialogue, but for the most part, she's a really interesting character. It's a really great performance. And yeah, a really good antagonist for our main characters, for our heroes. And you want to see her get her comeuppance, you know. She's not quite mustache twirling villainy, but she's close enough where she doesn't become pantomime. She's close enough where you still, yeah, you buy this character, you hate this character as you should, and you really want to see her get a comeuppance. Now, there has been talk before this film came out, a whisper amongst critics, that this was the best King adaptation since Shawshank Redemption. I think Green Mile probably is in the running for that, but you know what? I think, yeah, as a fan of The Shining, a huge fan, to see a sequel come out that, again, I don't think anybody really wanted. Not really, if they're being honest. Like, when they announced it, I was like, really? You're going to do this? No, that's not going to work. There's no way that's going to work. So the fact that it comes out as well as it does, yeah, I'm excited to watch this again, to be perfectly honest. I can't wait to watch this again. So, yeah, for me, I'd probably say it is the best King adaptation since Shawshank Redemption. I urge you to go and watch it. The only advice I would give, like I say, is don't go into this expecting Kubrick. That would be foolish. But certainly, it is the next best thing that we could have hoped for. Absolutely. So yeah, a really good character-driven piece that is very good at tension building, free of jump scares. I loved it. I'll give it a 4 out of 5, and that score may go up on repeat viewings if it holds up as well as it did on the first viewing. So yeah, great stuff. But what about you? Have you seen Dr. Sleep? And if so, what did you think about it? Comment below and let me know your thoughts. And until next time, cracking.